Today on Running to Him.
While individuals can make a difference for the Lord, the nation will change when a godly person rules the nation. Today we will read 2 Chronicles chapter 21 through chapter 24 and concentrate on chapter 24, verses 1 through 3 and 8 through 11. 2 Chronicles 24, 1 through 3 and 8 through 11 says, Joash was 7 years old when he became king, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah from Beersheba, and Joash did what was right in the sight of the Lord in all the days of Jehoiada the priest. And Jehoiada took 2 wives for him, and he became the father of sons and daughters. So the king commanded, and they made a chest, and they set it outside the gate of the house of the Lord. And then they made a proclamation in Judah and Jerusalem to bring to the Lord the levy fixed by Moses, the servant of God, on Israel in the wilderness. And all of the officers and people rejoiced and brought in their levies and dropped them into their chest until it had finished. And it came about whenever the chest was brought into the king's officer by the Levites, when they saw that there was much money, then the king's scribe and the chief priest's officer would come, empty the chest, take it, and return it to its place. Thus they did daily and collected much money. Now Joash was the great-grandson of Jehoshaphat. His grandmother, Athaliah, seized the throne when her son Ahaziah was killed and attempted to kill all of the royal lineage of Judah. However, Jehoiada, the granddaughter, hid Ahaziah's youngest son with her husband Jehoiada, and Joash was 1 year old at the time. When the time was right, Jehoiada led a rebellion against Athaliah and installed Joash as the rightful king, and he was 7 years old at the time. And as long as Jehoiada lived, Joash did what was right in the sight of God. And he began a great revival that lasted until Jehoiada died. So let's look at 2 principles in the story. First is that the religious reforms best occurs in a country when leaders walk with God. If we look at Judah's history, each time their leader followed God, they were successful, and each time their leader rebelled against God, they were defeated somehow. Ultimately, it resulted in the Babylonian captivity. The second principle is that leaders can be led in the wrong direction if they listen to bad advice. After Jehoiada died, Joash turned to poor advisors and began instituting heresy into the kingdom of Judah. This heresy led to God sending prophets to tell Joash of his heresy. Still, Joash ignored them and ultimately killed his cousin Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, who had prophesied against him. Now, these 2 principles can be applied to the United States today. With the turmoil in Congress, Mike Johnson was elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives. Speaker Johnson is a strong Christian, which has irked many of the political class. The Speaker is attempting to lead the House in a more consistent way in the way of the principles found in the Constitution. How successful he is will depend on how consistent he is in his walk with God. If he's consistent, God will overcome the resistance, and our government will return to following the Constitution. If he compromises, he will fail, and the country will headlong into more turmoil. Our country has moved in the direction of removing the Judeo-Christian principles upon which it was founded. For the most part, our politicians in all parties have abandoned our core principles and submitted themselves to living for power and not towards godliness. We have never been a Christian nation, but our founding principles came from the Scriptures, and through our abandoning them, we have lost our way.
Thank you for listening. We pray that today's devotion was meaningful to you. We would love to hear from you. You can use either Facebook or YouTube to like, subscribe, share, and tell others about us. If you would like to contact us, you can reach me at phineasjacobus@runningtohim.net.